Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Stand Up Speakeasy. I'm Sareth, and every single episode I bring on a guest that's in a central time zone that have made an awesome impact in stand up comedy. And I do my very best to raise funds for them and get some followers for them on social media, get website traffic to their website, and all that good stuff. So without further ado, I'm bringing on Jason Switzer. Welcome to the show, Jason. How are you? How are you doing, Jason? Can you hear me okay?
I'm good, and thank you so much for having me.
You're quite welcome. So I was reading your bio here, and you're a former
I'm
stand.
doing well. I can hear you just fine. Am I not coming in?
Uh, it's like a little bit of a delay, but we'll be okay for sure. So you're a former local stand-up
We just popped
producer.
in. Okay.
Uh, you're a former local stand-up producer. What got you producing stand-up comedy shows?
Was actually show running. Uh, I didn't perform as much as a lot of the other people on the scene. I really sort of found myself setting up chairs and making sure lights were pointed in the right direction and all those things.
Indeed, most definitely. And you're currently the chef and owner of Constant Coffee and Tea. And what got you in the coffee and tea business?
It's actually kind of a funny story. I was a cocktail bartender for years, and then when I moved back from Europe, my brother was opening a coffee shop, and he needed somebody to help out. And so I said, "Well, I'll do it for a little while before I leave again." And then I just never left again. And 4 years later, I bought half the business, and it's just sort of been one thing after another. Then
Awesome stuff. And you mentioned that you were hosting and producing shows, and you hosted a comedy open mic comedy in 2014 for Pensacola's Comedy Unchained. And how did you get involved with Comedy Unchained? So how did you get involved with Comedy
well,
Unchained?
that was Bubs Harris. He still has a band here in town. He still does a few things here in town. Uh, you know, a you know, that's what he called the whole thing. And so I started going to the open mic, and then I performed at the open mic, and then he needed somebody to fill in hosting an open mic, and that's when I met people like Olivia Cersei uh, and a few others, and it sort of snowballed from there.
Awesome. Olivia's great people. I got to interview her a while back, and also I'll be interviewing Bubs here in a little bit too, so that's kind of neat. And
Tell Bubs I said hello.
absolutely, I'll definitely do. And you also worked with Tony Burkett on the production too, and I see here, and you also
Yeah. So
promoted.
when the
Go for it, Jason.
So when the room changed hands, that was Olivia and Tony and I and a few other people put together Back Porch Comedy, and we had that. That is still going actually. Olivia's still, as far as I know, Olivia's still involved in that. Ryan Pfeiffer is doing that as well, along with Rated R Comedy.
Oh, sweet. I'll be interviewing Ryan here shortly too, so I'm pretty excited about that. It should be later tonight actually, so that's gonna be pretty awesome. So you
Yeah,
put
I enjoy
together
playing.
indeed, and while you were with Rated R, you helped out David Hetty. I got to meet him from Canada, I believe, and he's an awesome guy. Signed with Stand Up Records, I believe. How was working with David
Uh,
like?
uh, I really enjoy just spending time with David Hetty. He stayed with my wife and I, and he met our cat Leonard Cohen, and he thought that that was pretty great that we named our cat after a Canadian hero, and he's just a real fun guy to be around. He's a different kind of person. Like the person that you see on stage is really kind of David, and it's really nice to spend time with him, hang out with him.
Most definitely, indeed. And you also worked with Sam Talent, and he's a fellow Colorado native, like just like me. So what was that like?
Sam is a tour de force. I often joke that Sam deserves everything he gets. Uh, he's he's a national treasure, in my opinion. If you haven't read his book, Running the Light, you absolutely need to.
Indeed, I'll definitely have to pick it up. Hopefully, he'll autograph it for me. That'd be pretty awesome. And I interviewed Dave.
He's pretty liberal with those autographs.
For sure. And I interviewed Dave Stone while he was in Orlando. And what was that like working with Dave Stone?
Dave Stone taught me just a lot about how to run a comedy show correctly. He's so open with how things are supposed to go, in his opinion, and how to make a comic feel like they matter, like you care if they're there, or if they're just a product that you're trying to shill. He's so open about everything that goes on in the business that it was, as a local, the eye-opening to be able to know what it's like to what productions are like on a national level, and have some idea of how to reproduce that, at least in a small way, and get a national comic to like the room that you're doing. It was really amazing talking to him.
Most definitely, indeed. I've never met Ethan Moore, but I'm sure we will. But together with Anna Lepley, they produced their drag shows. And how did you get to work with those two fine folks?
Well, I was working with Tony and Olivia at the time. We were doing Back Porch Comedy, and we had Anna and Ethan come in and do just a regular show. They didn't do the drag show the first time. They did a little sort of like a music and jokes kind of comedy duo thing together that was pretty successful, as successful as we were at the time. And we just started talking about it, and Anna said, "Hey, are you willing to do this show?" I don't know how many she'd done at that point, but interested in being involved, and we floated the idea. And I'm always ready to put on a dress, so it was just kind of a thing that we did, and we had the show twice while I was there. I'm sure that they'll have it again once COVID has passed, and Anna can get in touch with Ryan or with Olivia or with Andrew Ferrara, whoever is involved in putting it together. And it's been a real good time. Ethan's podcast has also been real fun. I don't know if you've had a chance to hear it. The Mean and the Sober. It's as edgy as it is regressive, and I think he would consider that a compliment.
Awesome. I'll definitely have to check out his podcast for sure. And so you also helped out with other national, local, and regional comics. Which ones stand out the most to you? That weren't listed or that weren't in the bio.
Out for a second. Okay. I'm not sure that I've ever thought of a rating system that way. I always enjoy working with anybody from Tallahassee. Tech Johnson came through. He's just a great guy to have a beer with. Real funny guy. Let's see. had a few people coming out of Mobile and Gulf Shores. Um, Zeke Buckles.
Well, Jason had to got cut out a little bit, but I'm sure he'll be back.
Involved in
There
that.
he
So
is.
just so many people that I'm going to leave somebody out. So I'm just going to leave everybody out so they can all be mad at me.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, Tech Johnson's a really cool guy. Got to meet him in St. Augustine. He's such a fine fellow. I agree for sure. And so, you've also been featured on the local cooking show Coastal Cooking with John Scanlon, and I got to see that on YouTube. What was that experience like?
It was a lot of fun. It was an interesting confluence between being a chef and being a performer. John was on our local comedy scene for a while. Um, he is a real fun guy to be around. Did a couple of sets with him in a few different venues. Did some did a couple empty rooms with him where basically it was I watched him and then he watched me, and then he and I and the host had a beer together afterwards. And I think everybody goes through that from time to time. And he was involved with producing that cooking show, which was for local public access television. And he knew that I had the restaurant, and so he asked me to do the seafood festival booth with him one year. And then after that, he had me on the show for a couple of episodes, and it was fun. It was nice to be able to do the two things that I feel like I kind of do at least a little bit well at the same time.
Indeed, most definitely. I love performing in front of small crowds, and that's why I close out my mic in my the mic in Daytona Beach. And like there's like maybe three people, and they're mostly comics, but they're there to support me because like it goes until midnight, and I'm like there after midnight, so it's a whole lot of fun.
Oh
Indeed. So you left stand-up comedy to focus on your restaurant, Constant Coffee and Tea, and your Facebook is on scrolling on the bottom, and it's also beneath the video, as well as your Instagram and your website. So make sure you guys go check out Constant Coffee and Tea and support Jason. That'd be pretty awesome. So we've also produced shows at Constant Coffee under the name Comedy Clash. What's the inspiration behind the name, and how did that get all started?
Well, we were doing them in. Well, I planned on doing them in the back of the comedy shop or the comedy store, or the coffee shop. Excuse me, for a while, and it's sort of just like just kind of a theoretical thing. It was just kind of, hey, maybe this will work. Maybe we can do this. And I was dreaming one afternoon after we'd closed, and I kind of set the room up to kind of look like a theater a little bit. And I thought, oh, this could be a thing that we could do. And so I immediately put it on the back burner and didn't think of it again. And then Sam Talent called me and said, hey, I want to do a show in Pensacola. I haven't done a show in Pensacola for a while, and I want to perform there. What do you got for me? And I said, I'm not really doing stuff anymore, but let me give you some names of some people that are around that have some good shows, and we'll see about that. One person never called me back. Another person didn't have the right night. And so we set up the back room the way that I had sort of envisioned it. And it was not a complete nightmare. There was it was a little bit loony to try something we had never done before with someone like Sam. But we sold tickets and we filled up the room, and it was an absolute sauna because we didn't have the air conditioner set right, and we got through it and we made it through, and it was a lot of fun. The name comes from back in the 70s. There was this movement that basically housewives, middle-class housewives, were doing, where they would invite people over and have like a local politician or a local representative of a political party or somebody who was involved with some kind of charity or some other action group. And that person would speak to people who have been invited to these women's homes, and they were often called coffee klotches. I don't know what that word means. I never bothered to look it up. It's just a funny word to me. But with it being at a coffee shop and with the spoken word aspect of it, it kind of just sort of came together for me. That it's a comedy klotch, and I looked it up and no one was using the name, so I immediately wrote it down on everything I could find with a date. So when inevitably someone who's more famous, more talented, and better looking than me takes it, I can at least hold up something and go, no, I did that.
Indeed, most definitely, Jason. Before you retired in 2019, I wanted to ask you questions about your stand-up journey. So, with that said, this next portion is about your stand-up journey. So, what inspired you to perform stand-up?
I have been in love with stand-up comedy since I was a very young child. My father had copies of old Richard Pryor and George Carlin stand-up specials on vinyl. The first time I learned how to use a record player was putting on Richard Pryor's stand-up special, which contains language that I am not allowed to use, so I won't. And I just I had the TV on for the first airing ever of anything on Comedy Central. Used to make up jokes when I was a kid, and then I got an opportunity to perform at Coconuts Comedy Club here in Pensacola, and I was 19. I was extremely intoxicated, and I was on an open mic that was just before a showcase. And I went last on the open mic, and I sucked. It was so bad. People were leaving. The professional comic there that night told me never to do that again. And so I didn't for like 10 years. And then I met Bubs through my friend Anna Karofsky, who's, I believe she's in South Carolina now. She introduced me to Bubs and to his thing that he was doing here. And Bubs and a couple other people just sort of shamed me into getting on stage one night. And the rest is history. That's how I got into it.
Indeed, and I remember you talking about how intoxicated you were, and you didn't do so well at Coconuts. But what was it feeling like when you first performed stand-up?
When I first performed at Coconuts, I don't remember anything about it, other than being told by a professional comic, someone who was kind of a hero to me by default, that I was so bad I didn't belong in his world. The second time I did it was probably worse. Just laughed and laughed and laughed, and then I bombed every time after that for the next like 30 times. But it kept me chasing that dragon, so to speak. So, yeah, but it's exhilarating. I think everybody who does this knows it's a drug. The adulation that you get, it's not like music. It's not like reciting poetry. It's way more visceral than anything like that.
I agree wholeheartedly. That's why I do it. So, let's see here. You mentioned Richard Pryor earlier too, and a couple other comics. And what are your favorite comedy specials and comedy record albums?
Well, I mean, that Pryor album was my first one, but I mean, let's face it, that's like someone asking you your favorite record, and you mention Hendrix. Yeah, we get it. I'm absolutely in love with Taylor Tomlinson, Quarter Life Crisis. I think that is by far one of the best specials that I've ever seen. The way she puts things together is amazing. I'm one of the two people apparently that enjoyed Nanette. Uh, I loved that special. Um, I I like old Daniel Tosh stuff, uh, and his specials. It's I kind of go across the board. I think the next special
Indeed,
is probably my favorite.
most definitely. And if you were to go back to stand up, if you can go on tour with any comedian, locally and internationally known, which comedians would you like to go on tour with?
Oh man, uh, I as far as local guys, I would say right out the gate, I would like to tour with Matt Mosley, who ran Shooters Comedy before the virus, and I'm sure will run Shooters Comedy again after the virus. And Brent Condon, those two guys are just great. I would love any chance to spend time and travel with them. Uh, I think it would just be really fun. Um, I I think I would definitely want to go back to working with Ryan and with Olivia and Tony and the way that things kind of were at the beginning of that. That was just a really great memory for me. On the national level, I would want to tour with Sam just because I would want to throw TVs out of hotel room windows with him, and I think that he's the guy who would be down to do that. This, you know, and then Shane Moss, I would absolutely adore getting to travel with him. If I'll never be that good, I'll never be good enough for that. But I would, I'd like to. I wouldn't mind going around with him.
Indeed, and a couple of those folks have are on TV and from the comedy specials and whatnot. And what are your favorite sitcom sketch shows and comedy films?
Oh, uh, sketch shows. The Kids in the Hall, absolutely. Picnic Face. I love Canadian sketch comedy. Um, it's it's like British sketch comedy, but without all the furtive glances, and I really enjoy that. Obviously, the old classics like Monty Python. Uh, I really enjoyed. I enjoyed Mr. Show on Comedy Central, but before that, Viva Variety. I don't know if you remember that show. It was very
Uh,
early on Comedy Central. And then comedy films. I uh, I really am a sucker for anything that Adam Sandler did in the '90s. I It always makes me laugh. I don't feel good about it, but it always does. Really, and then I like dark comedies. One of my favorite actually was a Polish dark comedy called Ciało, which means body, and it's a farce where basically the whole film is just chasing around this dead body. It's like a darker Weekend at Bernie's kind of vibe, like without the so much, well, with a different kind of silliness, I should say. Weekend at Bernie's is one of my favorite comedy movies. It's just the physical gags in it are just wonderful and great. I've always been a huge fan of clowning. Physical comedy I really like, which is probably why I like Adam Sandler. Uh, but yeah, clowning, anything that's got pratfalls and goofy stuff in it. And then situation comedies. I never really watched a lot of them, but if I had to pick two right off the top of my head, it would be Fresh Prince of Bel Air and Family Matters, are probably the two that I watch the most of. I like my sitcoms to be a little more heartfelt, I guess, and a little less slapstick, rather than basically the opposite of how I like my films.
Indeed, most definitely. And let's see, if you can get roasted by five comedians, past and present, which comedians would you like to get roasted by?
Oh, good lord. uh, Past Sam Kennison, because I mean, if you're gonna get beat up, you might as well get beat up by Bruce Lee. Uh, Trying to think who. Joan Rivers, because I'm sure she would just be deadly. I imagine she would just eviscerate you. Let's see. Present. Daniel Tosh, just because he'd be good. It wouldn't be lazy. He'd go all the way. Let's see. Who else present? Not that it matters. Future. I don't know. I'd let you take a crack at it.
I'll definitely try my best. So I'll ask around and see what the dirt is on you, and then we'll go from there. So it seems more personal. Indeed, and Jason, you currently produce shows now, and what do you see your comedy career in the next 5 years?
Oh, in the next 5 years, I honestly I kind of see it more winding down than anything else. Uh, I I've been getting into kind of some other kind of things. I've been trying to kind of get into music a little bit more, more outdoorsy kind of stuff. Trying to plan a distance kayaking trip. I'd like to maybe get involved with uh, solo sailing a little, uh, and then of course also just trying to build the coffee shop and get that better and better and better until I can hopefully retire. I probably will continue after the virus is sort of past us a little bit and we're able to do larger group meetings again. Probably will keep the comedy clutch. Try to do that a little bit more. Probably stay on the local level, the regional level, and
Well,
uh, and just kind of let that be a thing that I do for fun. Uh, I'm not really interested in trying to make a business out of comedy any longer, or really make a name out of it for myself. Although that could change tomorrow. It's comedy something I love. I love to see it move forward. I want to see it move forward in Pensacola. The people who are doing it in Pensacola are doing a great job of it, and I wish them all the best and offer them any help that they may want from me. But yeah, that's pretty much where I see it for me personally in 5 years.
indeed, and you've produced shows, and you're venturing off into music. And what other forms of comedy would you like to venture off into, like music or comedy writing and directing and producing? Well, you already produce, but sketch, etc.
Well, I can always get better at producing. I can always can do it more. I I could see maybe having my own venue at some point outside of what we're doing at the coffee shop. I do like the production and hosting aspect of it. That's probably my favorite part of doing the thing. I like doing sets. I'm always happy to do a set if I feel like I've got material. I'm probably a little bit too critical of myself when it comes to that sort of thing, and that you know, uh, not necessarily that I think that there's all these genius ideas that I have, but I mean just the ability to get up there and fail. There are people who are way better at that than I am. They learn from it better than I do, and they take it in stride better than I do, whereas I beat myself up. Uh, so the behind the scenes part really kind of speaks to me from that point of view as well. Uh, it's it's hard to know what the next step is. There's always people like Anna who are pushing me. Every time Anna comes to visit, she immediately wants to drag me to an open mic in Mobile. And she's such a genuine person that you can't say no to her. and that's so there's always that aspect. And again, I'm sort of pernicious by nature. There's no telling what I'm gonna think next week about this.
Most definitely. And what is your favorite joke
Could
or comic?
decide to drop everything and move to LA.
For sure, indeed. And what is your favorite joke or comic has ever written?
My favorite joke a comic has ever written. That is that's a real big question. I I just don't know if I have an answer to that. There's so many things that I like so much. I'll do this one. Anthony Jeselnik in his special, which is not my favorite special, but it does have one of my favorite jokes because it's just so purely a joke, and it's where he's talking about. It's just like a classic, just turnaround misdirection joke. He's talking about his nephew, and his nephew's pet fish dies, and he says, his nephew says to him, well, what happens to my fish now that it's dead? And is there a fish heaven? Is my fish going to go to heaven? And I'm paraphrasing, obviously. And Anthony Jeselnik says to his nephew, I would not be so conceited as to try to tell you what happens to a fish in the afterlife. But what I can tell you is there is no God.
That's pretty dark.
And again, it's not my favorite special, and Jeselnik's not necessarily my favorite comedian. He kind of strikes me as someone who's sort of trying to pull Daniel Tosh's thing, but is just doing it too much and too on the nose. But that joke, I barked laughing when I heard that the first time, because it was such a pure turn. I just didn't see it coming, and it really did catch me. And it's just a beautifully written joke, in my opinion.
Most definitely. And if you were to return to stand up, what experience would you like your audience to take with them after a set is over?
I just want people to laugh. I want them to go, that was funny. That was worth whatever I paid to get in here. And I would want to see that again. I every time I go on stage, or every time I went on stage, my primary thought was, okay, you need to do good enough that you are comparable to the guy before you, that you set everything up for the guy after you, and that your set fits into the show, and the show is good. That was always my goal, is to make sure that the audience saw the best show they could see, not necessarily the best set that they saw from me.
Indeed, most definitely. And Jason, which comics would you like to
Don't suck
see?
so bad that they remember you for sucking.
Indeed. And Jason, there's some local comics in your area, and I was wondering, which comics would you like to see on a future show of the Stand Up Speakeasy?
Oh, definitely Andrew Ferrara. I should absolutely talk to him. You should definitely talk with Olivia Cersei. I've mentioned both of them. I've mentioned Ryan Pfeiffer already. You should definitely talk to him. You said you're already going to be talking to Bubs later tonight. Absolutely fine and talk to Matt Mosley. Matt Mosley is one of the funniest guys in Pensacola, and one of the sweetest guys that you could possibly come across. He's been running the same open mic for as long as anyone can remember around here. Shooters is famous on the Gulf Coast. and Matt should be more famous than he is. Absolutely talk with him. There's there's so many people, but those are the big ones that I would say right off the bat. I mean those guys. Talk with those guys. They'll fill your plate for the next 4 episodes, 6 episodes, 8 episodes.
Awesome. That's what I was hoping. And Jason, is there any final words you'd like to give to the audience out there?
Yeah. Always tell the funny one.
Indeed, most definitely. And be sure to follow Jason on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Visit his website and give him some likes and some follows. That would help out a lot. And definitely go out and support his local business, Constant Coffee and Tea. And Jason, thank you so much for being my guest on the Stand Up Speakeasy. And I look forward to seeing you when I pass through Pensacola and the Gulf Coast area.
I look forward to seeing you as well. It was nice meeting you online, Sareth.
Nice meeting you too, Jason. Be safe and take care. And I'll put these all together and I'll send it your way. So we'll see you soon.
Thank you much. I appreciate you.
I